Welcome to Smartsheet Formula Basics Part 2, Cell References. Cell references within formulas refer to a single cell or a range of cells in a sheet that has been selected. We will be discussing different types of references and how they are used. The first type of reference we're going to look at is the relative cell reference. This is a basic cell reference that changes when copied or when the formula is dragged down. I have referenced cell 1 in the data column. If I use the little square in the bottom right of the column to drag it down, the reference will automatically update to reference data 2, data 3, and so on. I can also reference a cell from the first row from a different row. For example, I can reference data 1 in row 10, and it will pull the value of 5. Next, we are going to look at absolute and mixed references. Mixed references combine relative references and absolute references. I am going to type data, then the $sign, then 1. This will reference the same cell we started with in our last example, but the $sign in front of 1 changes it to an absolute reference on the row, meaning it will always reference row 1. However, since there is no $sign in front of the column name, this is a mixed reference. When I drag the formula down, it will always reference row 1, the absolute reference, so each cell will populate with the value 5. Currently, with the mixed reference, if I were to drag the formula to the right, it would change the column being referenced, but still always be row 1. Now I will add a $sign in front of the column name data. This makes the reference an absolute reference, since both the row and column will not change. It will always reference that same cell, no matter what direction I drag the formula in. If I change it back to a mixed reference, but instead of the row being absolute, I leave the column as an absolute reference, and remove the $sign in front of the row number, it will now update the row if I drag the formula down, but the column referenced would not change, even if I copied the formula to the left or right. Now let's review add row references. This is a reference unique to Smartsheet, but makes formulas in your sheets much more efficient. If I type in data add row, it will return the value from the data column that is in the same row as the formula. So if the formula is in row 1, it will return the value from row 1 of the data column. When I drag this down, it will automatically pull in values from the respective rows, but the reference will look the same for all rows, reading data add row instead of having row numbers. We will have a separate video for column formulas, but please note that the add row reference is part of what makes the Smartsheet column formulas work. Next up is the range reference. Up until now, we have looked at references that only look at individual cells. This is a reference that covers 2 or more cells. Likely used within a function, the range reference is a section of cells that need to be considered within a formula. For example, when you sum, you will likely want to reference a range of cells to be totaled. For this example, I am going to type sum, then reference rows 1 through 10 of the data column. This gives me a total for that range of 275. Similar to the range reference, we also have a column reference. This will reference every populated row in the referenced column. To reference the entire column, you type the column name, then a colon, then the column name again. If your column name has spaces or characters, the column name would need to be wrapped in square brackets when referenced. In this example, we have used the sum function again and referenced the entire data column by typing data:data. You will see this highlight the entire column. The benefit to doing this, as opposed to the range from the previous example, is that it will automatically new values from any additional rows populated later in the data column. Finally, let's look at Smartsheet's cross-sheet reference. This is a reference to a cell or range in a different sheet than the formula itself is in. First, I am going to type equal, and then for this example, I will just use the count function. After I add the function to the formula, instead of referencing a value from within the same sheet, I am going to select the Reference Another Sheet option. A new screen pops up. Here I can search for and select the sheet I want to pull from. When the sheet loads, I can then select the range within the sheet to reference in my formula. I can rename the sheet reference name. This makes it easier to identify what is being referenced when I view the formula in the other sheet. You can always rename the reference later. The formula returns 11, so there were 11 populated cells in the range from the other sheet. To review or edit this cross-sheet reference and any other cross-sheet references in the sheet, I can right-click any cell and go to the Manage References option in the menu. Here you will see the one cross-sheet reference we just added. I can use the kebab menu icon and select Edit to edit the reference. Here I can rename the reference or even change which cells this is referencing. If CloudWave can help your business with Smartsheet or any other application we support, please visit our website and reach out to us.